Welcome to the first ever edition of the Steelers Reaction Show with myself, Elliot Gelfand, and the original Steez Bros. We have Josh Gelfand, who's sitting next to me, and Alex Gelfand. This is the result of a long process that started 11 years ago when Josh and I were living in Denver, and we started a Steelers blog called the Steez Bros. And that went on hiatus when we all decided to get jobs and have families. But we're back, and we're starting a Steeler podcast that we're going to recap the games and then go in whatever direction that takes us. I wanted to do this because I love recapping and reading any kind of recaps after I watch television or movies or read a book. I want to read a recap and hear what other people have to think about it, and Big Brother, especially that too. So I have not been able to find a source of that I like for Steeler games. So I wanted to start my own podcast and do recaps. So we're going to suck for a while. This is the first time any of us have ever done a podcast, but we're going to talk about the Steelers. We all have varying degrees of knowledge. We've been Steeler fans since we were born. And so last night was the first preseason game of 2021, and it pretty much bored me to tears, but I decided I was going to do a podcast, so we have to talk about it anyway. So Josh or Alex, do you want to say anything before we dive into the first preseason game?
Apparently I was barred from the SteezBros blog while you guys were in Denver and I was still in Pittsburgh and participating, but thank you for having me here.
Well, excited to talk Steelers, excited for another football season.
It's hard to believe the football season is here already. And I do, as I said, hate the preseason, and it sucks even worse that we have not 4, but 5 preseason games this year. But it was pretty cool to see all the Steeler. No, we have 4.
We have 4. They cut it. There's 17 games this season in the regular season, and most teams have 3 preseason games, but we have 4.
We still have
one
more than everyone else.
Yes.
But it was cool to see all the Steeler Hall of Famers and everything going on for the Hall of Fame festivities. Fortunately, Troy decided to get COVID and couldn't be there.
It sounds like he will be able to go this weekend from what I've seen and trying to catch up on Twitter. But I was going to say, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I have not made it to Canton, which is probably a sin for how big of football fans we are. And we've lived so close to Canton for as long as we did and have never been there. But right now I'm jonesing for home and wish we could, outside of COVID and how that's going right now, we wouldn't have gone anyway. But to be there this weekend would have been awesome, just with how many Pittsburgh people are going in, and there's more Steelers of our lifetime now going into the Hall of Fame. It would have been an awesome time for not only to enjoy the Hall of Fame for the first time, but to see our generation of Steelers play go in. So I'm excited to watch that this weekend.
Yeah, on the flip side, it's in Ohio, so it's nice that we're not there.
If I had sound effects, we would have used one there. But no. I have been to the Hall of Fame. It's pretty awesome, and you could definitely tell it was a very pro Pittsburgh crowd there at the game last night, and they're definitely excited to watch all the new guys go in and see all the old guys. My first question is, they showed a clip of Cowher was on the sideline standing next to Tomlin during the game. What do you think they were talking about?
Probably talking about that can of Iron City that's been sitting in the fridge for as long as Tomlin been coaching now, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's probably like that 1978 Steelers Iron City can that I had as a souvenir. It's getting up there in age, and probably one of our high school friends would be happy to shotgun it, but I think they're the only ones. But I'm sure just talking about how Mike's going to be the next one. He's certainly already had a Hall of Fame career, even if we criticize and yell at him a lot.
Would you watch a buddy comedy with Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I would pretty much watch. I would watch Mike Tomlin talk about anything. I think he's one of the greatest orators I've seen. So
it's a guaranteed hit with all the Steeler Nation. So that has to be better ratings than most network shows get these days, I think.
Cowher would just be yelling at people, spitting all over him. Get the Cowher back, and Tomlin would be saying all sorts of Tomlinisms. On the preseason side, I just need to know, I haven't looked, is our 4th preseason game against Carolina where nobody plays like it is every single year?
I know we
I think it is.
This year.
A tradition like any other. All the guys that will get cut.
I think we still play the Eagles in one of them too, but give me a second, I'll verify that.
So if I had asked you going into the game last night, if you hadn't seen it, who did you think there's always a preseason darling that all the fans fall in love with and demand to make the team, and the team doesn't always listen to the fans. But who was your pick for that? If you hadn't watched the game yet, who was your choice for that player to be?
It seemed like to me the everyone was getting excited about was Dwayne Haskins, who's come in after being cut as a first round pick 2 years later.
I mean, wasn't he like the 5th pick?
I think he was 15th
No.
or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was 15th.
Third quarterback behind Kyler and Daniel Jones. But it's pretty rare you see somebody get cut that soon after being a first round pick. But it feels like everyone thought he was jumping Mason Rudolph, and I think that's knowing that Ben wasn't going to play, he was going to get a bunch of time. It's probably the most excited to see is him going. And I didn't even know who was or wasn't going to play, but I had assumed that a lot of starters weren't going to play. So I think he was the one that I wanted to see how he would do given all the buzz coming out of camp.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I can't think of anybody else who I really wanted to see play. I was a little bit, it's so hard to watch, especially on TV and with everything else, I wanted to see some of the newer offensive linemen play and see what we're really getting with pretty much, I think, all 5 of the offensive line projected starters essentially didn't really play last year, with the exception of Chooks, who is moving from the right side to the left side. So pretty much it's unheard of to, especially for a playoff team, to have pretty much all 5 new starters at each of the positions on the offensive line. But with it having an extra game and there's people who are dinged up, the majority of them didn't even play. So that's what I wanted to see the most, but it didn't really come to fruition. From what Twitter and especially Alex Kozora from Steelers Depot, the hype seems to be about Rico Bussey or Bussy or whatever. But as I say, in my watch of the game, he didn't even stand out or do anything. I didn't even notice he was there, and kind of that's who I was looking for. But as I was watching the game, kind of completely forgot about it, and then thought as an afterthought, I was like, I didn't see him for 1 second. So
new AB.
Yeah, I hope and pray. Let's hope he doesn't throw any bases off a balcony. But
I don't think any of the starters actually played. But it was interesting to see Rudolph, what he looked like throwing the ball compared to Haskins. I didn't think Rudolph looked that bad. He made some good throws, and his offense was really vanilla. But once Haskins came in, his arm strength was just on a totally. It would look like Vic's balls when he was younger, just winging out of there with a wrist flick. And he actually went through some progressions, and checked down to like the 4th guy on one of the plays and made a nice throw to the sideline. So I mean, it wasn't anything that like everybody's going to be flipping out about, but I think there's some hope there. I mean, it was a pretty low risk move by the Steelers, just to sign him for the minimum. So
absolutely. I thought Rudolph looked better than I thought he did.
Yeah,
I don't think there was anything too overwhelming for him to look at or to do, obviously, but it seemed it was just kind of, he took his steps and had a predetermined decision and threw it. But for the most part, the balls were there. Haskins kind of caught me off guard with, I don't know if it's his throwing motion or his delivery or demeanor, but it just caught me off guard. It wasn't what I was expecting. He definitely has some velocity and whatnot, but I don't know, it kind of seemed disjointed and I was expecting more. And I don't know if that was just the Twitter hype or the practice hype that people have put out. But it seemed that he may have gone through his progressions, but he didn't really throw the ball downfield as much as I wanted him to, with maybe an exception or two where he threw a deep ball, but for the most part, it was mostly check down. So
they didn't take many shots. There was one deep ball that Claypool that was a good
catch. But it may have just been the hype, and I was excited to see football, but then it was a letdown watching him. And I don't know if he has a weird throwing motion. Maybe I need to go back and watch him from the Buckeye days or what he did in Washington and be like, did I just not catch this delivery before? But it just caught me off guard.
didn't seem very comfortable or very accurate, especially with how people were talking about. But first preseason game, he's playing with all the not even backup third stringers, guys that aren't going to make the team. I still don't even feel confident he's going to make the team. Like Josh Dobbs is
hot take alert.
I mean, he's on a 1-year minimum contract.
He's making the team.
He's already
Yeah.
off the field troubles, and Josh Dobbs. We already went through this once before. Josh Dobbs was the fourth string who wasn't going to make the team, and then he did make the team, and then he got traded. But I don't know. I think I'd be more comfortable with Dobbs than I am Haskins. I think Haskins is just, you feel like you take a bet on the talent and see if you can't develop him a little bit. But I don't think he's close to being the backup quarterback, which is what seemed to be the buzz. I think they signed Mason to be the future starter. They believe in him, even if nobody else believes in him, including probably everyone on the screen. But I just don't think, we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Haskins is the future quarterback, but I'm not even confident he's going to make the team.
Haskins isn't one of the DMV Virginia Tomlin boys, is he? He's not like from where's Tomlin from down there? That
he loves like Newport News area.
Yeah. And I think because he played for the Redskins, I kind of group him in with that group of players that Tomlin seems to love. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. But I mean, before this game, the thought crossed my mind, is there a chance that they pull a Landry Jones and cut Rudolph and keep Haskins and Dobbs? But I think that was off the hype of what Haskins was. And then what we saw last night was completely different. So now I don't really think that that's going to be a reality. It's probably a hot take in itself, but Rudolph is not the first round grade that they piped him up to be when they took him in the late third round. And obviously sometimes I just think they say, yeah, we had a first round grade on him just to try to justify their pick more than anything. At least I hope that that's true, because if they're putting first round grades on these people, then I'm more shocked and scared than anything.
I'm willing to give Haskins some slack. It was his first game with the new team. It was all the scrubs. See how he does out there next game.
What did you guys think of the offense? Did it look different with Canada? Did it feel similar?
There's certainly, the biggest thing I noticed is that, and I would say I may be a little bit more familiar with the Canada offense just from watching them more from the pit days than anybody else. But the thing that screamed the most is just the pre-snap motion. There's almost always somebody coming across the formation or moving somewhere in as I say, the Fietner era and even before, and everything that we know about Ben is that pretty much they ignored motion and play action. And that was one of the biggest things that showed up on watching the game last night versus the other versions of the Steelers offense that we've seen, is that there was almost always a guy in motion, whether it's a jet sweep motion and they're doing it, which caused a turnover on the first drive, or anywhere else. It was almost always a motion play, where it seemed last year they did it for like maybe the first 2 games and then it was just like they gave up on it. But as I say, obviously we only have 1 preseason game to show for this, and that was the thing that people talked about, was that Canada was going to bring in this motion. And the other thing is that they had all the quarterbacks pretty much under center way more than what we're used to. But I would say that Ben didn't play. So is it going to be different when Ben steps in, or what are we going to see? But that's the biggest thing that I noticed.
Believe it or not, there was play action.
When you get somebody in there who actually have functional knees, we'll see if there's there's more movement. It's still like motion and things like that. I like to see it. Still felt like half the offense was like a predefined 3-yard route. So
I think they still used a decent amount of different formations and player groupings. I actually was kind of impressed with the offensive line. I know the stats weren't great, but I thought they were getting decent push there wasn't all that much pressure. I thought Anthony McFarland was just terrible and didn't know where he was supposed to go. Speaking of him, how about him, the opening kickoff returner? I think he sticks back there.
I'll be a big fan if anytime they catch it in the end zone, he just takes a knee like he did on the very first one. That's all I really want from the kick return game. Other than
can we just get rid of the kickoff at this point?
Yeah, pretty much for kick return, my only hope is that they either catch the ball or take a touchback. At this point, I'd rather just make sure that we secure the ball and don't worry about returning it. But I was going to say, the Sexton punt return did get me a little bit excited. That was probably the most exciting play of the entire game. I think he's still a long shot to go through the entire roster and probably jumping around a little bit, but that was probably the play that grabbed my attention the most throughout the whole of the game.
I didn't even know who he was. He was on the team. I have no clue what he.
Some white guy was sprinting down the sideline. I was like, "What is going on?"
I think
is he an active free agent that we signed? Or I'm serious. How did they get on the team?
I saw on Twitter he runs like a 4.37 40. So
he must have been an undrafted guy.
Squad or something. Yeah, I'm not sure on that off the top of my head.
But I don't remember him from college football. I don't remember anyone. I think it's the Willie Mays Hayes out there.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed, Kendrick Green took Pouncey's number.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was going to say, you can only get rid of so many numbers.
Yeah.
I was going to say, somebody has to wear something.
Rudolph did have that horrible fumble.
Yeah.
And great throw to Claypool on third down, and then just threw it on the ground. Let somebody else jump on it.
And that's going to be one of the growing pains with the Canada offense, and so much more of that motion, especially if you're trying to run that jet sweep. It's if you don't have the timing down, especially if you don't have all the starters or half the people that they held out of the first game. If you don't have that timing down and Claypool's 2 yards past you while you're trying to hand it off to him, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. So I looked up Matthew Sexton. Apparently he is a rookie from Eastern Michigan. I'm surprised I don't remember him with all the Michigan football that I watched.
Was he signed? Yeah.
I think he must be because he's listed as a rookie.
Good thing he didn't go to Western Michigan. He would have been the next AB instead of Rico Busi.
I can't believe we're this far in. We haven't talked about the new Steelers favorite, Najee Harris.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up. First, let's get our usual complaint of any preseason game. And why was he playing deep into the second quarter?
Najee, Claypool, Deontay Johnson.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Mason Rudolph.
I don't care. They can get him killed. I don't care. Please don't kill Najee Harris.
But I thought he looked good. There wasn't any huge splash or anything like that, but there was certainly things to be excited about and that you could
balls out of the backfield.
Absolutely.
I'm ranking him high on my fantasy potential list.
And we're all going to swing from don't take a running back, don't take a running back, don't take a running back to, oh my God, he's great. Real fast.
I don't think there's ever any question. I mean, maybe there's a question, but I think everyone felt like he was a great football player. The question.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, opportunity cost of
late in the first round. Who else were they taking?
I would have went offensive line. I don't know. Again, it's one preseason game. It's a half an offensive line that isn't even starters, but it just gave me Le'Veon Bell rookie season vibes of you can see the guy's talented as he dodges three people to get a 2-yard gain.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't. If the offensive line is terrible, he's never gonna do a lot. Even though I think he'll be a great player, I think he'll be, Le'Veon and then he'll catch balls. He'll do a lot, but it's probably not going to be big game breaker type of runs and plays like that. And obviously we'll take what we can get. But I just think until they get a line in front of him, I don't think he's going to put up eye-popping stats, even though he'll probably get a ton of volume because Tomlin just loves to keep one guy in there and no one else. So it was nice to see him pushing piles. It was nice to see him making people miss, but it's making people miss and then averaging 3.1 yards per carry because you made two guys miss and 2nd and 7. Let's do it again.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
To that point,
No, it's an opportunity cost thing. It's just running backs don't have the value, and they don't hold their value compared to other players that you can take. But we now have contractual control over him for at least 5 years. And I would say if Tomlin wants to run him into the ground, and he's going to be awesome and be that all-star player and all-around weapon that we know he is. I would say watching him at Alabama, he just absolutely, like, he was a standout among a team of all standouts. Like, there was no indictment on his talent or what he's going to be. It's just, what is the value of the running back? But we need to get past that now. It happened. There's no changing it. And so now I'm on the Najee train, and I think he's going to be really great. And he always has been, has unlimited potential, and he seems like a great dude off the field too. So I was going to say, it probably won't be too long until I have his jersey on my back and I'm cheering him full on, even though I was 100% against taking a running back in the first round. But I was going to say, he has all the talent in the world and he should be awesome.
On the plus side,
but
it was easy money betting Steelers take a running back in the first round.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
Thanks, DraftKings.
Thank you for the $100. Pittsburgh.
I would say, if I would have bet with my mind instead of my wallet, we could have made a lot more.
Is Benny Snell going to make this team?
Did he even play yesterday?
No.
Is he hurt?
I don't know if he's hurt.
I think he has like a mystery injury, or there has to be something going on behind the scenes that he might be requesting a trade next.
Is it Ballage or Balaj? He looked good.
Balaj.
He looked good. We converted a 4th and 1 and like 1st and goal. So that's better than normal for us lately.
The first play I noticed him, it was like the worst. It seemed from the TV angle that it was like the worst vision and decision making I've seen. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. And I was watching on delay, so I'd seen your guys' text messages that said like, oh, Balaj looks great. And then my very first play I saw him, I was like, oh Lord, this is not great. But then like the very next play, he made a good play and turned it around since then. So my first impression wasn't the greatest one, but he atoned for it, and he did seem like he was doing a lot better. But I don't know. Benny Snell is a roller coaster. One moment he seems like he's a complete bust and he shouldn't be on the team, and I say can bust around and be a short yardage guy and be very valuable at the same time. So I have no idea, and who knows what's actually going on there.
So they normally keep 3 running backs plus a fullback, right? So we know Najee's.
We know Derek Watt is making this team no matter what our wishes are.
So there's basically 2 spots, and the question is, I mean, it seems like Canada loves McFarland, even though he's not shown anything.
He's a Maryland boy, so it makes sense.
And if he's going to return.
Yeah, and he brings something that nobody else does, which is actual speed. So I can understand it, even if he hasn't shown anything that makes him worth keeping. But then, so that just leaves Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Kalen Balaj is the last spot. And I mean, at Samuels, I don't really think brings anything to the table.
There's nothing there.
They love to keep a guy they drafted, though.
Yeah, so
that probably
the right person. Yeah, probably puts Snell ahead of Balaj if Snell can play. But I haven't heard anything about him in camp or.
Yeah.
Play yesterday, so I don't know if it's just an injury, but I mean, it seems like Balaj is getting good feedback, at least on like his blocking ability and ability to run forward and fall down forward. So
yeah, the other thing with it, and this is a Steelers Depot train thought as well, but Benny Snell last year was a standout on special teams, which nobody really thought was going to happen, and he made some good plays and really contributed in that third aspect of the field. And I didn't notice Balaj on special teams at all last night. I didn't especially look for it, but now that we're talking about it, if Benny Snell has that aspect and can add value there, that may be his ticket to this team versus what Balaj can do. Because I mean, if they're going to be the third running back and the third option, that's not going to be the biggest thing. But if you can make plays on special teams, that's an added value to this team, especially because you're going to have to make cuts elsewhere. So if Benny Snell can still do that, then that may be his ticket.
Solid point. Another thing I noticed, they actually ran a successful bubble screen. Went for about 12.
Yeah, I think think Kazora put a screenshot up of it, but the rookie lineman, Kendrick Green and what's the left
More.
tackle? I'm forgetting now. The Dan
More.
yeah. They both were running out there like faster than we've seen any lineman run in a long time. So that was nice to see some athletic linemen. It's kind of a that back to our like opportunity cost of draft picks. If those two end up panning out, that's what we need to replace. So we'll see. But I thought they started out, and I'm not watching offensive linemen pretty closely. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it didn't seem like they messed up blatantly, and it looked like they did some nice things for a first preseason game. So that was nice to see. But yeah, the offensive line is probably going to be the story of the season. Like, I think if they're solid, we'll be solid all around. If they're not, then it could just torpedo the offense.
Dan Moore might not survive training camp because he apparently keeps trying to fight Cam Hayward. So I don't think that's going to go too well for him.
Yeah, with offensive line, it's just so hard to watch on TV, and there's just so much going on, and the angle's not right unless you have the all 22 film and what you're really looking for, unless they make like a glaring mistake or they go back on instant replay and show you them pancaking somebody. It's pretty hard to be like, oh, they did a great job. So it's just so hard to evaluate, especially on a first or second watch, especially from the broadcast. It's really hard to, and especially not knowing the play call. Like, you don't know who's responsible for who, and based off of what the defense is showing, you don't know what they're calling at the line, what their calls are. Even if you could hear what they're yelling out the words, you don't necessarily know what they're supposed to do. So I would say, unless they're blowing a block and letting up a sack or letting somebody blow up a run in the backfield, it's just super hard to evaluate on first and or second watch off the TV feed. But there was some excitement.
Yeah, I just want to give a special shout out to Xfinity. Your experience recording games is very terrible, and in the middle of every play it chopped out and I couldn't hear what the announcer was saying, so it made it especially hard to evaluate anyone. But Xfinity, if you're listening, your DVR is terrible. Please.
And they will now not ever be sponsoring this podcast. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, YouTube TV sucks too, so
Whatever.
chalk them off your list.
They're in Philly. We don't need their
All right, let's move over to the defense. Overall, I thought the standout group was the linebackers. Highsmith was everywhere. No one could contain him. Quincy Roche, I wrote him down as a possible camp darling, wearing Dupree's number. Just those guys were making plays everywhere. I thought overall the secondary looked like trash, and they were giving up a lot of plays over the middle for the usual Steeler way to beat them. Just run someone over the middle and they're wide open. But yeah, I thought the linebackers looked impressive.
I just feel like it's super hard to tell. I mean,
It is.
Minka didn't play. I don't think Joe Hayden played. I was gonna say Terrell Edmonds wasn't in there. I think Sutton did play, but I mean TJ Watt hasn't even practiced yet, let alone play.
But it's good to see Highsmith a little bulked up and
Yeah, so Highsmith can look like a completely different person. So he looked like he has definitely bulked up. He looks fast. He looks like he has some multiple moves in his pass rushes, and that was exciting to see. I was excited to watch him, and I feel like he impressed in his rookie season more than I thought he was going to, and it just looks like he's grown since then. So I think the drop off from Dupree to him is going to be less and not be a huge detriment to this team. So, but for the most part, I feel like the box score will show you that the defense held them to basically no points or whatever, but my gut feeling was like they moved the ball pretty easily. They just couldn't score, but I'm just going to give it an incomplete because nobody was actually there.
No, I think Highsmith was a standout. I think a couple of the backup linebackers, we all thought that was going to be the biggest depth question of the season, was who's going to be there. Now Ingram, we signed Ingram, which I'm super excited about. If he can stay healthy, I think that's better depth than we've had in a long time. And then guys like I had never even heard of until camp season, Jameer Jones and Roche is a rookie, and Marsh is out there, and he's pretty terrible, but he actually looked good yesterday because he's playing against other third string guys. So hopefully the depth there is better than we thought it would be.
I mean, no one's even talking about Devin Bush's back.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I noticed was Ulysses Gilbert missed a big tackle on third down. And I was a little excited to watch him play. He's been hurt for so much and has shown some potential, but it's all practice and hearsay. And then I would say he letting up the catch on third down was fine, but he had a perfectly good opportunity to get him down before the sticks and didn't get it done. He missed the tackle and let up a first down on a 3rd and long. And I think they ended up scoring on that drive. I could be wrong. We can go back and fact check me on that, but it was like he had a great opportunity to make a good tackle and do it, and he didn't. And he was one of the people that is kind of on the back burner, but I think has a good chance to make this team. And especially if we have another injury on the inside, he needs to step up hopefully he can stay healthy for once and really show what he can do. But I was gonna say that was one of those mans that I was like, man, I was hoping that he could take that step and grow and be healthy and show it. But
yeah, well, it didn't seem like any of the inside linebackers played great. It didn't seem like the line was doing a whole lot in run stopping. They let up a couple long runs. I think late in the game, I didn't get to watch much of the late stuff, but it seems like some of the corners made some plays. It'll be nice to see if there's some depth there. James Pierre is for real and can be a solid outside backup guy behind Sutton and Hayden playing dime. And then on the inside, like I didn't notice Antoine Brooks that much, which probably means he did all right in the slot. That new guy Mallet that they've been talking about, my gosh, he looked like smaller than Mike Hilton out there. I didn't think he should be on the field. So we'll have to see, but maybe Brooks can step up. Yeah, I think Alex hit it right. Like every time I looked up, they were getting big yardage, and then they bogged down inside the 10 and then get a kick block or missed a kick. So I didn't think it was a stellar performance, but outside linebacker looked good, and none of our starters really played. So hopefully some of these corners can develop, get some depth, and get solid slot cornerback play. And I haven't seen many people ask it, but like, is TJ Watt actually hurt? Does anyone know the status of this?
No, and I don't think it's out there. The most logical explanation is that they're in contract talks, and basically at this point, we know what TJ Watt is. Does he need to practice right now? I don't think so. And I was gonna say if he has a $30 million average per year and it's going to be the highest paid defensive player ever, do you need him practicing the first week of training camp and playing in the Hall of Fame game? No, but at the same time, that's speculation. I have no idea if that's true. That's what I read on Twitter and can add a little bit of my 2 cents. But if you're holding him out for those games, why are you letting other people play in it? Why are you letting, like, does Cam Hayward need to practice and fight Dan Moore every other snap? Like, certainly not.
Need to practice?
Well, I think there's a difference between practicing and playing. And obviously the people who have established contracts and have made for a lack of better term, a butt ton of money. Yes, they're practice, super cliche, but practice makes perfect. And especially working in the new offense, like, yeah, I absolutely think Ben needs to play. But I was gonna say, I can understand from TJ Watt's side that I'm working on a mega deal. Do I need to go out there and have somebody screw up their assignment and get tossed into my knee and tear my ACL, or I take the wrong step and I tear my Achilles and I'm going to ruin my contract negotiation to be a couple $100 million man? I can understand why I'm not practicing at that point. And does he really need to? Probably not. At the same time, is it better to have your team as a unit and practicing together? Absolutely. So it's a double-edged sword, but my only thing that logically makes sense to me is that he's not practicing because he's a mini holdout, but is showing up and showing faith to the team and being there for his guys and learning the installs. Or he may have some little nick and tick injury that they're just not telling us about because they have to be secretive about everything, but that's all speculation.
That's more my worry. Like, I feel like we've had some injuries in the past that have been played off as nothing, and then they get put on PUP or whatever it is for 6 weeks to start the season. And you're like, wait, I didn't even think that was a real injury, but
Or your boy David DeCastro gets cut.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't pay as close of attention as I used to. So I was like, is there a chance that he's actually like really hurt? And we just
I really don't think he is. I think he's
I don't
fine.
think so, but there probably is a small chance.
I mean, he has an injury background, so it's possible, but I think it's contract related more than anything.
Most likely. So I think the actual darling from the first game has to be our new punter. You can kiss Jordan Berry goodbye right now. This guy was dropping dimes inside the 20, landed one on the half-yard line, kicking 50-yard punts. Welcome to the team, Mr. Percy.
I already ordered the jersey. Put it next to my Sepulveda jersey.
I mean, he's bigger than Sepulveda. He is a monster of a man.
I think he's bigger than most of our games.
And he is.
Percy Harvin 1, Percy Weasley 0. But no, he was fantastic last night.
I'm gonna be excited every time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not letting up a single return yard, having a punt down inside like the 1 or the 2, and a couple others. I think every one of them was inside the 20. It's everything you could ever hope and dream of a punter.
Someone on a return, and the fans are gonna go wild. It'll be like on the Renegade video every time.
Yeah, I need to watch the Pat McAfee breakdown of his game, but
maybe we can get him on the show.
Maybe. I was gonna say he's a true Yinzer. So outside of going to WVU, I was gonna say he's Pittsburgh through and through.
He is.
I'll be interested to see next game if they like. Is Barry going to get all the punts in the next game? Are they going to make it a competition? Are they just going to say we already know we have Barry and let Harvin kick every game? Because it sounds like clearly his talent level is way higher than any punter we've had in a while. But the downside is it sounds like there's more inconsistency, but we didn't see any of that yesterday. So I'm curious just to see what they'll do in the next game, if they'll split reps or if they're just going to give everything to the new guy. And I don't even know what his name is. Presley Harvin, is that his name?
Percy, I think.
Percy?
I think so. Either that or I made a terrible Harry Potter joke.
We gotta get a good nickname for him so I don't have to actually remember names anymore. But
PH3.
I'm just curious to see what the division of labor, if they're going to make it a real battle or just hand it to him as long as he doesn't mess it up.
Yeah, they'll let Barry punt some.
Presley, not Percy. I'm sorry. But I mean, I think the Steelers front office made it pretty clear that they don't love Jordan Berry. So they tried to get rid of him last year, and Colquitt came in and somehow stuck up the joint worse. And they brought him back, and then he came back and he did great. Yeah, he was an average punter, but obviously with giving Harvin a actual draft pick and not signing him as a undrafted free agent, obviously their goal is to get Barry out of there. And I don't remember Barry's contract, if it's more than the minimum or not, but I'm sure the rookie contract for Harvin is less. So any money they can save with being in the constant cap hell that they've been outside of next year, I think they probably are projected to have the most cap space out of anyone, but that'll be a very new welcome problem to have. But knowing what Ben will be, he'll sign again and take a third of that cap space or half of that cap space away anyway. But I mean,
we haven't even got to see him run a fake punt yet and hand the ball down the field either.
I mean, unless Harvin blows it, this is his job to lose.
Big time.
He brings fun. So I'm a proponent of that.
I dig it.
He made Danny Smith happy.
Chew that gum, Danny.
After watching Sloman or whatever his name is.
Oh, Lord.
Badly shank of field goal attempts.
Multiple.
No, I mean, the Cowboys kicker wasn't much better.
No, but that 2 wrongs don't make it right. Right?
I mean, Boswell didn't kick.
Well, Sweesom ended his career in Canton, so.
Yeah, smart move.
Sweet. I
Nice move, Kawa.
I couldn't remember his name that I was thinking about. I was like, oh, look at that guy that went down and got hurt. And I was thinking Scobie, and I was like, no, he was the one who was terrible. We replaced him.
Nice. Well, do you have anything else on this first preseason game that's in the
No,
for the 2021 season?
I don't think so. But I was gonna say my battery is dying quickly. That's why I just moved to try to move over because I'm down to 4%. But I also realized that I have wired headphones, so I can't plug in to get more energy.
Nice.
No, I'd say it's good to have football back. It's good to have a first Steelers podcast. We just got to come up with a name and some intro music. And
Yeah. So the next game is Thursday versus the Eagles. So we will be back to recap and talk about whatever happens in that game. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, click the bell for notifications or whatever it is they say in all these videos. Eventually, this is going to be a podcast on a podcast feed and available on YouTube. So, but like I said, this is our first go round, and I'm sure we sucked. But thanks for listening. See you Thursday.